That sense of unity and purpose and driving on for the future, that's a little bit of what's missing at Port Adelaide because of the circumstances that they have chosen for this year. There is a bit of a sense of marking time about Port, and they are suffering losses under Ken Hinkley that they have never done in his tenure.
We're not terrible, but we've had some terrible losses.
That's life. That's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high.
Flying high in April, shot down in May. They've now lost 3 in a row if they let this one go. Apologies to Frank.
Ken Hinkley, he'd be absolutely spewing at this performance. When Port get beaten, Sean, they can get absolutely pumped.
Is it more respectful to have him see out an arduous task of the back half of this season, or is it more respectful to cut the cord and send him out in one given game, celebrate him properly and say thanks for everything? Because I just think the long goodbye is a punish for all involved.
The Cats blow Port Adelaide away.
That is not good enough.
What is to be gained by Ken coaching other than his wins and loss record maybe changing over the next 10 rounds? I think this is the perfect time for their man Josh Carr, who's going to take their football club forward, to get at the helm.
This is threatening to be Ken Hinkley's worst ever season as coach.
Here's a losing town.
For mine, I would cut the cord, but clearly they've been defiant.
I'd do it sooner rather than later.
And I am leaving this town. You better be.
This is what you cautioned against in our first show together in March, is what would be the unintended consequence of trying to ride out a year of a succession plan.
Yeah, so they bring this sort of heat on themselves as a result of what the decision they made. They're 4 and 6, Jared. So is Carlton, so is Sydney, so is St Kilda, and so are Melbourne. But we know what's going on there. Within reason, we know, if Carlton keep going, then the pressure will come. But this was always going to be the narrative because, we know that Ken's coaching out the year. So he's a proud man, Ken, and he's a professional, and he will come in here and join us whenever on the link and tell us he's coaching his socks off. But right now, the rest of the footy world's, as we just heard, are speculating. Instead of speculating about whether Melbourne can get out of their hole and whether Sydney can regather themselves, we're speculating here about whether he should go now or in 4 weeks' time. And that's brought on by a decision that's made at the start of the year. So I feel for him, and I'd love to have the lasso of truth around the playing group. And it's no coincidence, is it? So you make the appointment and say the coach is not going to be here at the end of the year, and they've lost 76, 90 points and 91 points. They don't lose. They didn't used to lose like that, Jared. So coincidence maybe, but not when you weigh it up. Not when you weigh everything else up. So it's an emotional footy club. It's an emotional coach who coaches spirit better than anyone probably in recent times. How long you can keep going back to that well when the players are looking at you going, yeah. But guess what? You won't be here in 4 months' time. It's a hard sell. It's a really hard sell.
They have a short breaking point to watch them and to have called a few of their games, and it makes me appreciate just what a stirring job he's done across the past couple of years.
100%, yes.
He's got this team on long winning streaks, making the top 4. They're nowhere near a top 4 team, but coaching the socks off them, he's been able to get them to achieve so much. And now, through the circumstances, that they've just
potentially having the worst ever season in his last year.
Yeah.
Now that might just be the end of the era anyway, because of the playing list might not be where it wants to be. But that's the pressure that I don't think he needed to have. My opinion anyway.
Well, a rematch from the finals last year was Port v Geelong. Port coming off a very close loss in the showdown. Expectations were high, but it was a bit of a power failure for Ken and the boys over from Alberton.
Well, the thing is, I find out, look, the big storyline is this, is Kenny Hinkley, he should step down now, and obviously clearly he's in a succession plan, but I still come back to my thoughts at the start of the year when I cannot believe this team made a preliminary final, and they played on heart and they played on emotion. So they played above their talent levels, but this year it doesn't seem to be that they can play with that same sort of feeling, Bucks.
I don't know if that's. I think they're a side that plays with emotion, and when their backs to the wall, you see their best performances. So the emotion might be linked to the coach, and if the guy's going to be there next year, am I going to dig as deep as I might have otherwise? But I agree with you. I don't think they've had a top 4 23 for most of Ken Hinkley's time, and he's coached the years off him.
You look at that. I mean, the big losses, I think, show maybe an insight into the club, into the four walls. And
they've had 4 since the qualifying final.
Well, and I think that's. I mean,
are you saying the playing group or more than the playing group?
Well, they've got to be. It's got to be. I don't think it's one or the other. I think they come together.
Yeah.
So the motivation to play for a coach that's not going to be there next year, the accountability that the coach would still possibly try and put onto the players, but once again, you know that they're not going to be there, and this is quite stark this year. So
you think that's a direct reflection on the mental side of how they're approaching this year because Ken is finishing up?
Well, it might be. I mean, we don't know. We don't know whether they've neglected certain parts of their game because how do you coach for not only this year but certainly put things in place for next year if you are sitting in the seat.
Well, wouldn't those players be on edge though with Josh Carr, knowing Josh Carr's there, he's taking over next year?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. And
why not?
It's just.
Is there not grit or pride or performance?
Well, maybe there is for some players. Maybe there is for players who might not be there. But there's certainly players that sit in between that, for whatever reason, they give themselves an out for their performance because they know the head coach is not going to be there. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I'm just trying to put myself in position of the players and what they would be thinking. If it's 5%, it's 5%. Numbers show that they are well off where they should be in terms of previous years.
Now, if Isaac Rankin is your favourite player, I reckon this man might be your second favourite player.
Yeah, and look, he's built like a little prawn out in the wing, isn't he? But he's a beauty. I love Ollie Dempsey. 17 goals, which is top 20 in the competition. If you're not prepared for this matchup, and I'm telling you now, Port Adelaide did not plan for this guy. They had no idea what they were doing in terms of trying to clamp him, getting centre forward. Look at this. He is always pinching goal side.
Yeah.
And if you give... This is all in the space of 10 minutes. He had 3 shots at goals. He could have had a huge night. Now, he's taken 15 marks inside 50, which is... I think the next wingman's on about 6 or 7.
Wow.
So this guy gets forward. So if you like Port and don't scope and scout your opposition upcoming, then you get whacked.
You have to have a plan for him.
You have to have a plan for him. This is a main asset for Geelong. A prime piece on their board. Port Adelaide just weren't ready.
The Rising Star winner is one of the biggest tactical trump cards in the games for Chris Scott at the moment. What's the future for Port Adelaide? Kingy, just quickly.
It's a tough one, isn't it? A tough one to discuss. I mean, I just think that this is a season that's just going to run aground. It's just going to meander. It's just going to meander. If it were me, if I was Koshy, I'd say to Ken, look, what are we doing here? Why don't we get to the bye, reset, send you off in the right manner, have the big send-off game. You can still treat a man with respect like that on the way out.
That's important. I mean, he's been a huge servant for over a decade.
Yeah.
Now, they got to preliminary finals, Ken Hinkley. He needs to be treated with absolute dignity and respect.
Yeah, and what's more respectful? Punishing him for another 15 weeks or 12 weeks, whatever the season has left, or saying, hey, mate, you've been terrific for us, let's do the right thing on one given night.
And that's for the hierarchy, but if the players want to show him respect, the players have got to not be able to put in performances like they're doing and giving up after half-time in 3 games in the first 10 weeks. Yeah. If you want to show your coach some respect, well, fight out the game, dig in and show a bit of spirit and at least make it competitive.